Court reporters hold one of the most important roles in the justice system. We're entrusted with the official records of the courts, and we also have to run our own businesses, which is not something most of us were prepared for. I'm Bryn Seymour, freelance court reporter and life coach, and I invite you to join the discussion about the problems we face and the solutions we create on the unique journey of a stenographer.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Court Reporter Podcast.
Hello, court reporters and stenopreneurs. It is exciting to have another week with you on this podcast. So I want to talk today about my experience yesterday. So recently I moved back from Maine to New York. So I was originally certified as a court reporter, graduated from New York Career Institute / Plaza College in 2016, December of 2016. I was working in the Hudson Valley, predominantly like in Orange County, New York, or Westchester County, New York, and sometimes Manhattan. But, it's a kind of a long commute, so I preferred to just stay in the Hudson Valley. So yesterday I went to New York City to take the notary test because now I live in New York again. I live in Newburgh, New York, so I moved back from Maine in November. So yeah, I went to take the test in New York City, and it was just such a crazy day. Again, I always have these crazy days, and I love to talk about them and share the experiences I have because I love to hear when people have crazy days. I love to hear about it because it makes me feel, I don't know, maybe if it's my sense of humor or if it's just comforting to hear that other people go through these awkward situations and that I'm not the only one. So yesterday, I traveled into New York City for my notary test, and I made sure to leave with enough time so that I wouldn't have to be rushing and that I could, stop for coffee and take my time and be early. So I found this coffee shop on the way that was called Suited, New York City. Suited, like Suited. It's near Williams Street. So the test was on 123 Williams Street, and Suited was on like a cross street right near Williams Street, literally like less than a minute away. And so I ordered a vanilla macchiato. It was so good. It was delicious. The way that because I have an espresso machine, and every day I make my own espresso. And the way that I make it, it's good, but compared to the one that I got yesterday at Suited, it just can't compare. Like after I tried that one, now I was hooked because the way that they made it. So okay, let me tell the story of what happened. So I got the coffee. Before I get into how good the coffee was, it was so good, so I brought it with me, but I got to the exam 15 minutes ahead of time, as I was supposed to, and I saw the sign that was pretty obvious. I knew that this is what you would expect at a notary exam in your state, that you cannot bring any snacks or drinks in with you. But I had my coffee, and it was so good, and I didn't want to give it up. And I don't like to drink coffee when it's lukewarm or when it's cold. Well, iced coffee is different, but when coffee is supposed to be hot and it gets lukewarm, I don't like to drink it like that. So I just brought it with me inside my bag. So I kind of just balanced it on top of the things in my purse, and and I put it in my purse and just made sure I was very careful not to spill it, and just thought it would be very secure there, and brought it in and put it next to me. And so as I'm getting settled in my seat and getting my pencil and anything that I needed out of my purse, like 1 minute after sitting down, I noticed that the coffee, I mean, I didn't even see it fall or anything, but it was just in a puddle. Well, okay, first I noticed the cup was sideways. So I was like, oh my gosh, the cup is sideways. So I picked it up, and it was like almost empty. And so then my heart sank, and I knew that the coffee had spilled in my purse. So I opened my purse and looked like into the bottom, and I saw that it was like a 2-inch puddle of coffee at the bottom of my purse. The delicious coffee that I was so excited to drink was now a pool in my purse. And I had like books in there. I had my Bible in there. I had 2 books that I'm reading, and I had my wallet. And thankfully, the damage from the coffee to those books and my wallet and anything that I had in my purse, it wasn't too severe. It was just that the coffee was everywhere, and it was starting to leak through the bottom of my bag, and it was all over my things. It just, like, the page damage in my books wasn't so bad, thanks to God. But still, it was everywhere. It was like in between the covers and in between, like, it was just mostly in a pool on the bottom, but also getting everywhere. So I just was a little bit stressed about that. And thankfully I was 15 minutes early before the scheduled exam start time. So I rushed to the bathroom with my purse. I was trying to not make a scene, but I rushed to the bathroom and kind of like dumped everything out of my purse. But again, I only had like 5 minutes at this point. So I just rushed back in and tried to wipe things off to the best of my ability. And it wasn't until after the exam that I went back to, first of all, I went back to the coffee shop to get another coffee because I lost my coffee and it was so good. It was so good that even though I spilled it in my purse, it was worth paying another $6 for the same thing. Actually, he gave me a discount because I told him that I spilled it in my purse and that it was so good that I came back for another one and that I was going to tell everybody about this place because the coffee was just so good. I was telling him how I have the espresso machine in my house and it's nothing like the way that they made it. So I was just talking to him and asking about it and then he started explaining the science and the technique behind brewing the milk in the coffee, and my brain kind of checked out at that point because I couldn't really follow all the details of that, and I was like, all right, I know that I'm not going to do that and I don't know what he's talking about anymore, but all I know is that this coffee is amazing. The texture was just so soft and creamy and fluffy and it just felt like heavenly, like it melted in your mouth. It was so good. Sorry this is very descriptive now, but it was really good and I wanted to share that with any of you. If any of you are in New York City, you should totally check it out. It's like in the tip of Lower Manhattan, Suited. So great coffee there. Now, I really hope that I passed my notary test, so I want to talk a little bit about the notary. Now, as a notary, I always found it interesting that we have to be notaries to perform our jobs and the high level of responsibility of a notary, being appointed as an officer of the state by the governor pretty much, and like it seems like such a big deal. I mean, pretty much anyone can become a notary, and the qualifications and requirements to get in, it's not like you have to have much of an education or even really much studying to pass the test. Now, mind you, yesterday during the test, I felt like I was pretty much like I did not know the answers to most of the questions. I feel like I really only knew about 25%, which is really shameful and embarrassing to admit, especially on this podcast. I hope no one judges me, but I feel so underqualified to be a notary. And it's kind of scary to think that I've been a notary for 6 years, performing duties that are very important. And yet I did not have the confidence that I even passed this test yesterday. And well, first of all, why am I taking the test again? You might be wondering. So when I moved from New York to Maine, it was like 6 months before my notary actually expired in New York. So my notary expired in December of 2020 in New York. And so I had 6 months to renew it, but the process was just very slow and I didn't get much of a response from the Secretary of State in my communications. And I did not have the time or make the time to go all the way back to New York to see how I can renew my notary. I thought that should be something you can do online. And it didn't happen. So I let my notary lapse and I thought it's fine because I'm already a notary of the state of Maine, which, by the way, the state of Maine the notary commission lasts more than 4 years. So in New York, it's only 4 years, but in Maine, it's actually 8 years. So I'm a notary of Maine now for the next 8 years. But unfortunately, I have to go through this process because of my New York notary lapsing. Now that I'm back in New York, I have to get it all over again from the beginning, starting from scratch. And it really does feel like I'm starting from scratch because I thought like since I'm already a notary, I pretty much have a good handle on what the duties and responsibilities of a notary are. And I didn't think that it would be necessary for me to really like study. I did go on the website. I think I Googled New York notary exam preparation and read something on the state's website about preparing, but literally for just like 5 or 10 minutes. So obviously I didn't prepare enough as I should have for the test because there were questions on there and terminology that I wasn't familiar with. And that doesn't really apply to us as court reporters, but I guess is still important for us to know in order to pass the test to be a notary. So I'm really hoping and praying that I don't have to take it again, but at the same time, I feel like it's my moral obligation to take it again and actually to study and prepare and make sure that I really understand what I'm getting myself into now that I'm becoming a New York notary once again, which I've already been, but clearly things have either changed or I just totally forgot all the things that I must have known the first time. I think that the first time I took the test, I felt a similar way. Like, I didn't really feel confident that I passed it. I wasn't really sure. I don't remember exactly if I felt this bad about it. Like, when I say bad, I mean 25% is how I feel like I might have known 25%. Can't remember exactly how I felt the first time I took it, but really, I just feel like it's funny, or not funny, but just interesting how we have to be notaries and we don't really know, like, we're not really taught how to be a notary when we're in school. It's just a very small part of being a notary that really applies to us. Or maybe there is more to it. I don't know. Maybe if anybody has some insight on this, I would be so interested in hearing your take on it. You can definitely leave a comment or send me an email or a message on Facebook or join the Entrepreneurial Court Reporter Facebook group. And let's start the discussion about being notaries, because it's definitely important, considering that we're appointed as officers of our states. It's definitely important for us to know what we're doing and know our duties, because one small little mistake could lead to big consequences, right? So I remember, when I was in Maine, there was a period of time where I was still working for the state of New York, but remotely. I made sure that they knew that I was living and present, like residing in Maine for the jobs that I took. And I also made sure that they knew that I was a notary of Maine and not of New York anymore once my notary expired in New York. And they said that they were fine with that. Most of them were okay with that. And I think there was one time where I had to cancel a job because they weren't comfortable with that. But for the most part, they were fine with it. And then one day I got a message from an agency saying that the client was asking for my certification number, which whenever I get asked for my certification number, I always get kind of confused because I don't have a certification number. All I know is that I'm a court reporter that graduated from school and I'm a working court reporter. And I thought that meant that I'm a certified court reporter, but apparently certified court reporter means something beyond that. So am I not a certified court reporter? I'm not exactly sure, but now I'm really questioning myself because I don't know if I'm a certified court reporter anymore. But I know that I graduated from an NCRA accredited court reporting college, so I consider myself a certified court reporter. But yeah, I'm still working on getting the RPR and all those other extra certifications that will make me more of an official certified court reporter. So anyway, this agency is asking me to provide my certification number. So I asked them, what do you mean? Like, I graduated from New York Career Institute, which is now Plaza College. Do you want me to ask them for some kind of verification, or do you want me to provide my transcript to show that I graduated and what my GPA was and things like that? And so then they responded saying that actually what they were looking for was my notary number. And that got me a little bit nervous because I thought maybe they forgot that I'm not a notary of New York anymore and that I'm a notary of the state of Maine. And so that got me into a whole rabbit hole of research about notary laws. And I wanted to become an expert on notary laws because the feeling I got when I got asked for my notary number, of course I responded to the email saying the truth, which is that I'm not a notary of New York, I'm a notary of Maine, and here is my license number, or whatever the information was that they asked for. But it got me really nervous, and the feeling I got was very uncomfortable. And so I thought, like, oh my gosh, am I going to go to jail? What's going to happen to me if I broke a law of the notary public without realizing it? How many times have I broken the notary law without knowing it? I need to become an expert on notaries public. So I started listening to podcasts, I started researching, I started calling the Secretary of State, which, by the way, the Secretary of State in Maine is so easy to get a hold of. And I love calling them because they answer the phone and they talk to me. But in New York, it's so difficult to get a hold of them. I don't know if it's just because New York is such a highly populated state and it's more busy, but I just want to give a shout out to the state of Maine for being so amazing when it comes to contacting the Secretary of State. So yeah, I called the Secretary of State of Maine. I asked them, I explained my situation to them, and I asked them, am I breaking the law? What's going to happen to me? And they said, we're not really an enforcement agency, so we don't, even though if I were admitting to committing a crime at that moment by confessing everything about my situation on that phone call, if I were, they obviously clearly didn't care and didn't have the means to go tracking down any mistakes that I might have made in the past or the desire to do that. But I just wanted to get an idea of what the consequences would be if I were doing something wrong. And I wanted to make sure that I take responsibility as a notary instead of just putting the responsibility or the blame on other people for not, like, for basically moving forward to have me work for them, even though I told them I am a notary of this state, not that state. Because ultimately, even if they say, okay, that's fine with us, but if there ever is a problem in the future, I'm the one to blame. It's my responsibility. As a notary, I'm the one that has to make that decision and be responsible to know what the laws are for notaries and what the responsibilities and the duties and the obligations are. So even though attorneys might pretend that they know or pretend that it's okay to do something, they actually don't. They might also be notaries themselves, but to be honest, it seems like they know either the same amount as us or less about the laws of being a notary. So it's just, like I said from the beginning, it's just kind of interesting how low the bar is to become a notary and how high the expectations are, or whatever the word is. But it's just, like the likelihood of us actually getting in trouble for any little mistake that we make, it's pretty low. But if something does happen, the consequences can be high. So I went down this rabbit hole of research, trying to become an expert on everything I can possibly learn about notaries. And on that journey of learning everything I can possibly learn about being a notary, I discovered that there is a career called being a loan signing agent, that all you have to do is be a notary in order to be a loan signing agent. And it's where you can pretty much make up to $150 or even $200 per appointment, per loan signing appointment, where you go and notarize documents and sign papers for different types of loans, like housing and mortgages and things like that. So I got really intrigued by that and really interested in that because, you know, there are slow times in a court reporter's life, in a court reporter's career. There are times where work is very slow. And I thought, this might be a good way to have like some kind of a side supplemental income, especially in Maine, because in Maine it was slow, a little bit slower than New York. And it was also, the real estate industry in Maine is amazing. It's booming. Like people are really looking to buy houses in Maine, and they're building new houses, and they're always purchasing houses and doing mortgages and loans and things like that. So I thought, wow, this is a good side gig opportunity as a notary. Like there are so many opportunities that notaries public can do. So I started researching more about how to make money as a notary now that I'm becoming an expert on notaries and being a notary. So I'm like, okay, if I'm becoming an expert on a notary, I should use it. I should do something with it and try to maximize on every skill and every certification and license that I have. So since I'm already a notary, I might as well. So I became a member of the National Notary Association, also because I was getting advice from them on my situation while I was trying to make sure that I didn't commit a crime. And they helped me a lot. And so I became a member, and I took their course on becoming a loan signing agent, which, by the way, you don't actually have to take a course. If you're confident and you know how to sign these documents, and you can actually just do it without even getting a specific certification for loan signing agent. The only requirement is that you're a notary. But I'm not actually advocating for this career because I ended up taking the course. I got one client. You know how as court reporters we can either work through clients directly or we can work through agencies that get the clients for us? Well, it's the same thing with loan signing agents. There are loan signing agencies out there that you can get jobs from, and there are also just direct clients that you can go directly to and get the work from. And obviously going direct is the most lucrative, but you also have to be more of an expert and more qualified for that. But I always like to shoot high and have impossible goals. So my goal after taking this class and becoming certified was to just go directly to the real estate companies or the attorney law firms that do these types of transactions and get the clients directly from them. Get the work directly from the clients. So that's exactly what I did. I reached out to people on LinkedIn and I told them I'm a new loan signing agent looking for work. And there was one that responded right away and started assigning me to loan signings immediately. But I don't know why I'm just such a clueless, like, when it comes to these laws, when it comes to the law in general, I'm just like, it doesn't click with me that easily. And so when I went on my first assignment, I tried to just have the faith and the belief that I can do this and that I am ready for this, because most things in life, our thoughts and our beliefs and our faith, most things in life are according to our faith. But in this case, I just, I think I had a little bit too much faith and not enough understanding of how to actually do the job. No experience at all whatsoever. The course that I took was very, it was from the government, from the state, from the National Notary Association. So it was a little bit like robotic. It didn't have the human element where you can kind of connect and ask questions and really understand. It was just very by the books, like almost like a recording, or like a robot was just telling me all the requirements. And that's just how it felt to me. So when I actually went in live to do one of these jobs, and mind you, they booked me for a bunch of jobs at once without even knowing me, without even, just basically from my LinkedIn profile, but they didn't really know me or know if I could actually do the job well or not. But just because of my confidence and my faith in my eagerness to work, they booked me for a bunch of jobs. But after the first one, I think my lack of knowledge on what to do actually must have shown through, and they must have seen right through me and that I'm not actually a qualified. I mean, was technically qualified by paper and by certification, but experience-wise, definitely wasn't there. So I asked so many questions and probably wasn't the best use of their time, and I just didn't do the best. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't feel confident when I was actually doing it. So anyway, they ended up canceling the other bookings that they had for me, and I realized through that situation that, and they did, oh, by the way, they did pay me, so I got $150 from that 30 minutes that I spent with them doing that assignment, which was amazing. So clearly it is a career and a business that has potential. But just like anything in life, you have to really set your mind to doing something. And since this was something new that I realized I was going to have to put a lot more time and maybe even invest in a better course to really fully understand it, I just decided, like, you know what? Compared to court reporting, it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. So all those thoughts that I had been feeding myself or hearing about how if you're a notary public, you should let people know and utilize your notary and do something with it to make extra money. Yeah, no. I am glad that I went through this situation so that I could decide for myself that I'm not going to put the time and the effort and even the brain power and the energy and thinking about options for utilizing my notary. I'm just going to, I'll always let people know that I'm a notary and I can like notarize a document simply here and there. But I'm definitely not going to go out and try to make that my main source of income or even a side source of income, because to be honest, there's so much more opportunity within court reporting to make more money. Even just selling rough drafts is a few extra $100 a week if you sell a rough draft every week. An extra $200 or $300 per job for rough drafts with a lot less of a time investment than the notary thing. So I just wanted to share that experience because I think that a lot of us share the same feelings about being a notary, and maybe some of you have thought also about making a side career or a side gig out of your notary. And so now you know that loan signing agent is definitely the most lucrative of any notary job that you can get, but it does require, unless you are already a notary whiz and a notary pro and a notary expert, and maybe you have some real estate background, then it might not be worth the time to try to figure that out and gain the experience of it. I would recommend, if you're trying to make a little bit more extra money, just start selling rough drafts and up-leveling your real-time ability to take higher end and higher profile cases. So that's what I decided to do. Instead of pursuing the notary thing, I invested a few $100s in that course and in being a member of the National Notary Association, and a lot of time into the studying and taking of that course. And I got $150 back from it, and I learned a lot. So I don't consider it like, I don't regret it. I think it was good. And it's great that I get to share all this. And I hope that you guys are learning something from it and that it's not a really boring episode. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on being a notary and how cool it is and how also of a high responsibility it is, and how much, like, I learned a lot about potential mistakes and consequences for the mistakes of being a notary as I was doing that journey of researching and trying to figure out what the chances of me going to jail for committing a notary crime were. So that's where I stand right now on my notary journey and on my court reporting journey. Hey, do you feel stressed, confused, and overwhelmed in your career as a court reporter? I see you. I know exactly how it feels. That's why I decided to become a life coach specifically and exclusively for court reporters. Whatever your goals are, whether it's to start building a team that can support you so you don't have to burn yourself out working so much, whether you want to up-level your ability to take real-time and high-profile cases, or maybe you just want to be healthy, manage your time, or reach a personal goal. Whatever it is, I can help you. If you don't believe me, just try me. Schedule a free consultation and let's make a game plan to accomplish your impossible goals.